Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to another video. In today's video, we will be discussing the possibility of Titanus Doug actually being a baby Godzilla, or at least being some kind of a relative to Godzilla, and could possibly, due to this, have Godzilla's signature atomic breath and atomic pulse. So in order to find this out, we first need to discuss the binomial nomenclature of Titans. And what the binomial nomenclature really is like each animal's scientific name, and their species are all categorized within different groups. There's domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, and subspecies are all of the categories in which every single animal is included. And now, in the fictional world of Godzilla, includes Titans. If you've heard Godzilla referred to as Titanus Gojira, or Kong referred to as Titanus Kong, that is actually the scientific names or the binomial nomenclature of these titans, and all of them are actually in the same genus. It's similar to that of a protist category, and what protists are organisms that are very similar to another group, yet are not categorized within it because they're slightly different and do not fit the exact definition, and are therefore placed in an entirely different group of other organisms that are slightly different than the groups that they are similar to. For example, this right here is a slime mold. It's very similar to a fungus, yet it doesn't meet the exact criteria to be considered a fungus. Just like this seaweed right here doesn't fit the exact definition of a plant, although it's very similar. And once again, this amoeba right here is very similar to an animal, but is classified as a protist instead. All of these are protists, even though they're not actually that similar to each other. And we can see this in the world of Godzilla too. Kong's being similar to monkeys, Gojira's being similar to lizards, and so on. However, they are all categorized within the Titanus genus, which isn't actually a real genus, but it was made to include all of the titans. So, all of these titans have similarities in their biology that make them able to be as large as they are. And something else that makes them all very similar is radiation. All of them have a very large amount of radiation within them that also allows them to be able to be as large as they are. This is also part of what gives them the abilities that they have. So because of this, we could possibly say that Titanus Doug is the same. So therefore, could Titanus Doug have this atomic breath and the atomic pulse that Godzilla gets from the plasma and radiation within him? Well, we can't say that instantly and so definitively. There are a lot of differences between certain titans, because we know that King Kong has this radiation within him, yet he obviously doesn't have atomic breath or an atomic pulse. The reason for this is that it's not nearly as much. Godzilla himself actually lives off of radiation. He doesn't eat anything. You may have noticed that when he battles other titans, he doesn't eat them when he defeats them. However, Kong does because he needs to eat to survive, and Godzilla doesn't. He lives off of radiation. So we know that Titanus Doug and Godzilla are not the same species, because they would both be classified as Titanus Gojira. However, Titanus Doug is obviously classified as Titanus Doug, but that doesn't mean that the two species aren't more closely related than the rest of them are. And we can also see that both of them are very closely related to lizards, as well as Shimo. And we know that Shimo also has an atomic breath of sorts, which is ice breath. However, this likely does not come from radiation, although we know that Shimo still likely contains a lot of it. So some of the titans that live off of radiation include ones like Titanus Rodan, obviously Godzilla, and King Ghidorah, and some that do not include King Kong, the rest of the Kongs, and Scar King. And for a lot of the other titans, we don't have a definite answer as to whether they live off of radiation or real food, but we know that Titanus Doug actually does fit into one of these categories. We see in a few scenes that Titanus Doug does eat food, which means he does not live off of radiation. Going back to Godzilla vs. Kong, we can see him eating this giant spider over here, and we can see him stealing one of the wart dogs from Kong that he was eating. He likely, therefore, does not have the atomic breath or the atomic pulse. However, we can't rule out some kind of a version of it. Like I mentioned earlier, Shimo's ice breath does not come from radiation. Instead, it likely comes from some other special thing in her biology, which Titanus Doug could also have. However, he likely does not currently have them, and would probably have to grow and evolve in order to unlock these abilities. Now, it's very unlikely that he would have the same abilities as Shimo, but would likely have some of his own that we have not seen yet. Please note that this is all entirely speculation. There's no evidence suggesting that Titanus Doug will ever evolve or have any of these abilities, except for that he's very similar to Godzilla and Shimo, who do have them. Although if I were to bet on it, I would say that Titanus Doug is likely just going to continue on with some little cameos in the films rather than a full appearance. However, in any case, we all are definitely looking forward to seeing Titanus Doug again in the next installment of the MonsterVerse series. So if you did enjoy today's video, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe with the notifications bell on so that you can be notified of all of my future videos as soon as they come out. And with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.